Welcome back to another episode of District Divided. I'm your host, Amit Singh, along with four other hosts of equal value. I've got Matt Regan, I've got Lautaro Cabrera LC, I've got Kadeen Wiggins, aka K-Dot, and I have got Spencer Brudig. It is a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to welcome you all here. We have 5 different things to talk to you about. First off, we're going to do a rundown of DC sports. That is called the State of the Union. For those of you that have followed the podcast on Spotify when it was audio exclusive, I would do a DC sports rundown. I'm going to do that for you guys. Then Matt Regan is going to break down a huge trade that the Washington Capitals made at the trade deadline involving his Detroit Red Wings. We are then going to get into a fun little debate. Best stadium food. And I think we all have differing opinions on this, so that should be a good one. And then the Washington Wizards have been a bit weird. It looks like they're rebuilding. All of a sudden, it looks like they're making a playoff push. Would you rather, there are only a few games left, would you rather the Wizards just tank at this point? Or would you rather they just go for the playoffs? We're going to talk about that. And then we are going to conclude with a hot take. We're going to decide which one of us gets the hot take for the day, and we're going to talk about it. Now, first, we're going to begin with that State of the Union. So beginning with the Washington Nationals. Baseball has just started. They're 3-6 on the season so far. They trail the New York Mets for the division lead, who are 5-3. The NL East is off to a very slow start. Only one other team is at 500. The rest suck. But there are hundreds of games to go, so we're not really concerned about it. We play the Diamondbacks and Cardinals this week in 2 separate series. The Capitals, Nicholas Backstrom, congratulations, 1,000 NHL games, all for the Washington Capitals. Quick question, guys. How many other Washington Capitals have played 1,000 games? Take guesses.
In total or for the Capitals?
For the Capitals.
Oh, good, because I don't know any players.
Active or all time?
All time.
OV.
Do I have the name or just have them with a number?
Just a number.
I'm gonna say 2.
I'm gonna say 4.
4.
I'm gonna say 3.
Nice.
3. Okay. Kadeen, you are right. So Nicholas Backstrom is the second, OV being the first. Only those 2 in Washington Capitals franchise history have played 8,000 games. They play the Buffalo Sabres tonight. The Caps are in first place in the East Division, and with so few regular season games remaining, they are essentially a lock for the playoffs. It would have to be one of the biggest collapses in sports history for them to miss. Don't fuck with us, Washington Capitals. You're doing just fine. The Washington Wizards, their petition to join the Western Conference has been denied for the 13th time this season. But despite that, they are 4-1 in their last 5 games and are now just 1 game back of the play-in tournament for the NBA playoffs, believe it or not. For the last 2-3 weeks, for the last probably 2-3 months, I've been thinking about the draft. And now all of a sudden, we're maybe a play-in team. We're going to talk about that a bit later. The Washington football team, and Kadeen knows this very, very well, have signed future Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer, Samis Reyes, who will be playing tight end for the team.
He's a lock!
Excited about him. Very excited about him. According to his relative athletic score, I'm pretty sure that's just fan-made, his RAS, which is on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the best, he scored a 10U. The U probably stands for unbelievable. Kyle Pitts got a 9.64 on that metric. So we already got the best tight end and didn't even need to spend a first-round pick on the guy.
Probably the best tight end in the history of the football league.
Is he made out of a video game?
He might be. He might be. Actually, the video game may not even allow you to make this guy. He's ridiculous. He absolutely
can't be that big.
I'm out of the loop on this guy. Is he coming out of college?
He's 25.
He played D1 basketball at Tulane. And was like too good at football, so he decided, let me try basketball. I was like, okay, I guess I'm not going to make it, so now I'm going to go ahead and dominate and become a future first ballot Hall of Famer.
That's a hard decision for him. Wow.
It is. But he decided that, he tried to go the noble route of making it easy for people, but here we are. We've got the league's
tear
best tight end now. Yeah. Samis Reyes, the Chilean, welcome to Washington.
He's
Washington missed. He's Chilean. Is that going to be a problem?
I'm Argentinian, so yes.
Also, he's lived in DC for the last year, being a DoorDash driver. So if you've ordered DoorDash, you might have already met this guy. He's ingrained in the DC area and the DC culture already. It's just a match made in heaven.
Baby. Okay. I'm liking him a little more.
Chilean deliver some food.
The most athletic delivery driver in the history of DoorDash. He
gave you your burrito. You're
every
just
job.
Look at those biceps holding that
actually
burrito.
Might be a debate as well. I think he is, but I think you might be surprised at the same time. Anyway, moving on. The Washington Mystics, the WNBA draft is tonight. One more time. Guess how many teams are in the WNBA? Putting you on the spot. 10?
Why are you doing this to us, man?
10?
How many teams are in the WNBA?
There's more than that.
24.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to say
24.
22.
I'm going to go with 20.
20. Who said 10?
Spencer.
That is wrong. There are 12 teams in the WNBA.
Dude, I thought there were way
rounds. More. Yeah, wow. So did I. So 3 rounds, 12 picks each. Guess how many draft picks they have?
The Washington Mystics?
Washington Mystics.
8.
3?
Numbers don't matter anymore.
0. Numbers don't matter anymore. 0. Spencer is correct. No need to watch the WNBA
crushing
draft.
It today, boys.
About the WNBA draft. Now, moving on to
in
soccer.
3 rounds?
In 3 rounds, no picks. They've traded all of them. The Washington Spirit lost their NWSL Challenge Cup opener to the North Carolina Courage 3-2, but the silver lining here is that Trinity Rodman is going to be the greatest soccer player in U.S. history by the time her career is over. Less than 5 minutes into her professional debut, she scored a world-class goal. Absolutely fantastic first touch and
we like to extrapolate. So 5 minutes, 1 goal. So if she plays 90,
that's what I'm saying.
You do the math, baby.
That's like 400 goals a game.
It's excellent.
Listen, it's one of those things where if Alex Morgan could give up her daughter Charlie to have the level of talent Trinity Rodman does, right, I'm sure she would. So
one thing I want to say about Trinity, I want to say something about Trinity Rodman was I didn't really know anything about her other than that she is Dennis Rodman, Hall of Famer, Dennis Rodman's daughter. I did not wrap my head around how young she is. I was thinking that she was coming out of college, but I went onto her Instagram, and I don't have an Instagram, so I got to a certain point where it says sign up, but I reached her. She's a little girl, 40 pictures down. She's 12 years old, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's 18 or 19.
She's 18, yeah. Without context, that sounds sketchy on this podcast, but yeah, she is.
Yeah, that was a weird. That was a weird change, and you went down real quick.
So you saw it was a little girl, and you went 40 pictures down.
No. I'm saying that I'm saying that I scrolled to the maximum you can get to when you don't have an account, and all of a sudden I was like, who is this? Is this her daughter? And no, it was her 4 years ago, being a small child.
Whose daughter is that? Oh, man.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a lot about Trinity Rodman. She's going to be great. She is going to be great. The Washington Spirit play against Racing Louisville, an expansion team, tonight at 7 p.m. on Paramount Plus. And so by the time this episode is uploaded, you would have missed the game. I'm sure you could see it on replay, though, on Paramount Plus. And then DC United, final one. The season opener is on Saturday against New York City FC. The game can be seen on NBC Sports Washington. I believe it's at 8 p.m. And it is Coach Hernan Lozada's first game in charge of DC United. So best of luck to him. And Andy Nahar, for you diehard DC United fans, is back. He was the 17-year-old boy wonder 11 years ago. He is now 28. He has not scored a professional goal since Barack Obama was in office, and that's a real stat. So bringing him back to DC can only be a good thing for him.
Can we bring Barry back to DC?
May he score his goals. Maybe Barry comes with him. We'll see what happens. But that is going to conclude your State of the Union, your DC Sports wraparound coverage. So quite a bit over there. But one of the things we did not mention was that the Washington Capitals made a huge trade. Matt, do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, I do. It's particularly of interest to me because it pertains to my 2 favorite hockey teams. But I would say it was the biggest surprise of a relatively quiet trade deadline. The Caps get Anthony Mantha, and they give up, I don't know if fan favorite, but a fan like Jakub Vrana, Richard Panik, a first-round pick in 2021 and a second-round pick in 2022. And my first thoughts when I saw this is I was pretty shocked because I was surprised that picks were thrown in at all for this trade. I thought it would maybe be Vrana and Panik just for Mantha. and I see it's a first and a second going the other way, also to the wings. As a Wings fan, I was pleased. I mean, I like Anthony Mantha. He's a great player. He's a player that's been in our, we drafted him, whatever. And he's been on our first line for a while. So I hate to see him go, but I was shocked because if you asked me preseason who is better, Vrana or Mantha, I probably would have taken Vrana. I think that highly of Jake Vrana. Apparently Peter Laviolette, the coach, isn't a big fan of him. So he was kind of on the outs. He's in the doghouse. Mantha had kind of been the doghouse as well in Detroit. So I guess it kind of makes sense to switch. I was just surprised to see the draft picks go the other way. Maybe a second, particularly because we're taking on cap space with Panic. I think that makes some sense for the Caps. But I would say if I had to break it down, pros for Washington, Mantha I do think is ultimately the better player. I think it's close, but I think he is the better player. Laviolette is going to like his style. He's 6'5", kind of a power forward, at least doesn't get pushed around. He's under contract, whereas Vrana is an upcoming restricted free agent. And they got out of Panic's contract. For Washington, again, giving up a first and second round pick, not a huge deal for them. They're in their championship window now. Those first round picks aren't huge for them. Mantha, even though he's controlled and they know what he's going to make, he's making $5.8 million for the next 3 years. So it's not like he's on a steal of a contract. That's a lot of money. They got to re-sign Ovi upcoming. So, we see that where that goes. And also Mantha's had injury issues, not this year, last year and the year before, missed some games. So I think it was a weird move at the very least for Wash because A, they're rolling right now. B, they're already a big team, right? Sometimes you make this movie say we got to get bigger, but in your top six, you got Ovi, you got Wilson, you got Oshie. Kuznetsov isn't the smallest guy either. So they're already a big team. I don't really think that was a weakness of theirs. And then the one point that I don't really agree with is everyone's like, well, Mantha, he's getting this many points on a bad Wings team. If he comes to a good Washington team, he's going to double those points. Yeah, but on the Wings, he's getting first power play minutes. He's getting first line minutes. I don't necessarily know if that's a direct translation. So granted, he played game one, played on Backstrom's left wing. I mean, who's not going to score goals there? Goal and assist in his debut. So, hey, could be a good move. So I like Mantha. He's a great player. He's a great player. If he's clicking, he'll be a consistent. If he played 82 games every year, he'd be a 30 goal scorer, I think, every season. So
I was going to say, he had a great debut, as you had mentioned. And I think just playing on a team that talented now with the Caps, I think you're right with Laviolette. And I loved Vrana. So when I saw his name mentioned in the trade, I was actually pretty upset about that because he's young, he's fast and stuff like that. Is Mantha fast? Is he also a pretty fast skater?
He's nowhere near as fast as Vrana. No, I wouldn't call that one of his fortes. But he's not slow. He's not a speedy guy, but he's not a bad skater. He's just not. It's not his forte.
I just remember whenever we played the Penguins in the playoffs, and they would always just kill us with the fourth line and their speed. This was years ago, but speed kills. Speed kills in the playoffs as well. So I'm used to the Caps being one of the bigger teams and then just being a little too slow for other teams. So hopefully this trade works out. But off to a good start.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Off to a good start.
As a very casual hockey watcher, are there people that are considered to be beautiful skaters but are not good at hockey in the league?
Yeah, you would typically say so. I think the best example of that would probably be Carl Hagelin, shout out University of Michigan. But he is a great skater, but he's never been above a third liner in the NHL. Basically, you don't really have the end product to be there. You're fast, you can forecheck, you can back check, you'll play good defense, you're good on the penalty kill.
But what about triple axles?
He can probably also do a triple axle.
That seems really hard.
But that's your typical good skater. But the thing about if you're a good skater, you can always pave out a long career, and if you're also willing to block shots and stuff like that, which not everyone is, but you can be a scrappy good skater.
It's the equivalent of being like a big physical guy on basketball or something. You can play defense and you can
or like a good
7-1.
Yeah, or a defensive catcher in baseball,
Right.
There's always a slot, for that kind of guy, at least to play 30, 40 games a season,
Interesting.
I'll tell you what, you talk about Carl Hagelin though. That was a guy that absolutely murdered us with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Hated that guy. Then he played for us a little bit. It was chill.
But I'm just saying, the way that Spencer described it, I'm just expecting somebody who's like figure skating out there on the hockey rink, just doing twirls and shit, just not giving it. It's just a beautiful image to me, I think.
You see Blades of Glory. Is that what you had in mind?
Gorgeous.
Look at that form.
Look at that grace. It's just the games happening behind him. It's just amazing.
The outfits too are so much more just beautiful.
We should put the Olympics commentators on a hockey game and just see what happens, man.
The Olympics commentator. Oh, you're talking about for figure skating? More specifically?
The figure skating commentators on a hockey game, and I want them to comment on people's movements.
I think they would be appalled. I think they would be appalled at first, and then by game 2, they're ready to fucking roll.
I can tell by Matt's face he hates this conversation. It's disrespecting his game.
You really are. You really are. You really are. And
yeah, but it's fun to think about. So it's like
multiple forms of beauty. Man.
All right, so
it's the way that Ovechkin moves on the ice with such fierceness. It's just a beautiful thing.
Before we lose Matt forever, let's move on and talk about best stadium.
Don't disrespect hockey.
Put a lot of work into that, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Best stadium food. Cap One Arena is finally allowing fans back in. Audi Field is doing the same. So now you can see the Wizards, you can see the Capitals, you can see the Spirit, you can see DC United. And now that we're talking about stadiums, what's the best food you can have? And of course, Nats Park open already. What is your favorite stadium food? Spencer, why don't you lead us off?
Wow, I feel honored. For me, I'm just going to throw it out there. I mean, generally, it's a beer and a dog, right? Like, that's my go-to. But I will say that it is sports dependent. I mean, sometimes I feel like if I were to walk into into like a basketball game with a hot dog and a beer, it's a little different than like being at a baseball game and having like 2 beers and a hot dog. So I'm going to always go with a dog and a beer, but it kind of is sports dependent. I feel like sometimes it's just maybe beer might be the greatest food.
I gave this to you to lead us off.
It has calories.
Beer? How about his depth of argument? It's either a beer and a dog, 2 beers and a dog, or sometimes it's just a beer.
So or now on both sides of the equation, I just subtract one thing, and I'm left with beer.
It kind of depends, though. You know, like it's also, is it a day game? Like, am I getting hungry?
Spencer, no one was talking. Literally, no one was talking. You talked yourself out of the dog. Gave yourself another beer, and then took that away.
You're at the room. Had dinner. Maybe I want a dessert. Maybe I want a malt. I don't know. Like, it's just who knows?
I feel all right. So I think a big divide that I have a question on is are you a traditionalist in stadium food? Do you guys go for the craft foods? Because I think each stadium has
that's true.
Ballpark Frank, beer, Bud Light. That is a classic combo. But then there's, especially in the newer age, like Audi Field has a ton of like craft food and beer options, right?
Right.
You argue the same at Capital One. I think has more of like, because it's an older stadium, but sure, there are like some more finer eateries. So I'm curious, what do you guys go for?
I think Spencer just made the case for why you don't need to overthink this. Okay?
Yes.
There is an element of, everybody likes the fancy restaurants. Like, if I'm looking at any stadium in D.C., my favorite actual thing is at Nats Park, medium rare. The restaurant has a steak sandwich with, like, the fries and everything on it, which is an amazing fucking thing. And you can go to Audi Field, and I've had the sandwiches they got, like cheese steak, this, that, and the other, whatever. But there is something to be said about the simplicity of a hot dog and just a beer. Not to mention just the conveyance of being able to just hold it like this and watch the goddamn game. Where you get all these big-time cuisines and this ends up being a fucking mess. I can't move. If somebody's walking across, it's like, god damn it, I gotta move my...
Yeah.
It's just
you forget you're at a game, man.
Right.
Come on. You're not there
you can't use 2 hands, like,
right.
What are you going to do?
That's
Hold
the
your
thing.
beer.
Look, I try to keep the beer in my hand, right? The moment it goes and it sits down somewhere on the ground is the moment it's going to spill. And the moment that I have something that's way too big on my lap is the moment that if anybody walks by, they're either rubbing their ass on my food, or I got to move and try to figure out a way to hold the damn thing. Whereas a hot dog,
we got to get you better seats.
You gotta get those.
Well, he was the one saying that he he splurged for
right.
Diamond Club in
Hey,
that.
hey,
Right, Diamond Club. That's where it happens.
There's no-
that is not a
right
ringing
now, okay?
endorsement of
There's
Diamond
there's
Club.
no ass steak sandwiches in the Diamond Club.
I'm trying to be the common man now, okay? Not
Oh,
the
he's
dude
relating.
who
He's relating.
spends $300 on a pair of tickets and we lose, and I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? I'd rather have a hot dog and pay a quarter of the
Many hot
price for the
dogs.
ticket. And it's we're just getting too fancy with it. You got to go back to simplicity. There's a reason it's simple as far as the food. You want something like when they wrap it up
Gotta
in
be
that
one
aluminum foil, that hot dog, and it's going to stay warm there for you. If you want to get your little mustard packet to bring over there with you, it's the most mess you got to worry about. It's just a good look. It's a good vibe.
So I'm just gonna sort of flip the whole thing and just roll with nachos. If you guys know me, I just love nachos. Are they messy? Yes,
Yes.
they are. But I'm
Anti-nacho.
focused on the game anyway. I'm not really focused on my favorite stuff like that. Beer and nachos, I'm good to go.
Do you
I
put
think
more
nachos
than-
are the most overrated snack appetizer thing that there is.
I'm right there with you,
disagree.
Matt.
Completely
Yeah.
disagree.
Now, because the
Okay.
There's so much
nachos
you
you're
could do with the
It's
nachos.
chips
No,
and cheese.
you're not getting really
Yeah,
good
what's wrong
nachos.
with
You're getting that shitty 7-Eleven cheese on fucking Tostitos chips. Like, it's bullshit. Like, I don't want.
There's
No.
this narrative that just because something's from 7-Eleven or something like that, it's suddenly shitty. I'm
I
fine with
don't
it. There's a
want
reason
government.
it's mass-produced.
I
I'm cool
don't
with it.
want
I'm cool with it.
government
It
block
works.
melted cheese on some goddamn stale cardboard chips. It's bullshit. If you go to the restaurant and I get the
Well,
potato
yeah, if you
salad
sold
block,
this
They don't
stale
serve those in the
cardboard
they don't
chips and
serve those
stuff
in the
like that, I
Diamond
wouldn't
Club.
want it.
once again, trying to be the common man, Matt. Look, we're on the same side on this nacho thing.
Same
Stop
side.
They don't
trying.
even
Same
let
side.
What are you doing,
Same side.
man?
I'm gonna say this. I face a new challenge for Stadium because since my last Stadium game, I switched diets. No longer eat meat. So I gotta kind of battle. The beer and the dog was my
Common
go-to.
man.
Common man. But
Right.
I would say a pretzel with mustard is a
pretzel's
great
good.
thing. That's a great thing to bring. I think that's going to be my go-to.
This may be what brings us together. Please continue.
But D class.
mustard
And
on it.
also is if it's fair, I know you're the main host, but I'm going to put you on some blast because we go to a lot of DC United games, and I think your go-to most common order is a huge thing of popcorn with like flavored seasoning on it. And I was,
Oh,
you know,
dude,
I was
that
just
was one time. That was
I was
one time.
ooh, that was
Ahmed, what
twice.
are you-
It was
That
my
was
first two
not
times.
twice.
It was my first two
That
times,
was
and you
not-
guys rave about it. You guys were raving about it. You guys were like looking.
This was
You were
definitely
you were
Max.
talking about
This
it.
was
You were talking about
definitely
it. You were talking about it before.
This
You were
was
talking about it
definitely-
before the game. You're talking
I'm
about
gonna
it before
show
the
them
game.
this
So you didn't even
episode.
care
I'm
about the
gonna
game.
show
You didn't even
them
care about
this
the game.
episode. I'm gonna
You
show
didn't even
them
care
this
about.
episode.
I feel like
and
that's
we're
one of
gonna
those
figure that
things
out.
that when you
That
order
is-
it, the employee behind the desk is like, "Are you sure you
Ranch
want it?"
flavoring.
That's
Okay,
the
that's
fuck out.
absolutely not
That's
true.
the fuck
That
out.
is
ranch
absolutely not true.
flavoring, and
I'm
they were so
sorry the
hyped about it.
hot
It was like
didn't go the
cold
way you wanted
popcorn.
it
It was
to.
my
I'm
first time,
sorry
That
that
is
and I was
horrible.
and
I can't even believe that you're.
Oh, yeah, dude, I
discussing
was
it.
the guest. I was the guest in the season tickets, so I was kind of like, you know, picking out like, "Ooh, this is good." Like, invite me back. But honestly,
What is
if I got
this
the real
story?
season
This
tickets,
is-
I would trash it.
So
Dude,
so
the
you're
flavor
saying
popcorn
Ahmed
two times.
You're saying
Two's a
Ahmed
pattern.
goes and he buys popcorn and gets like Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning and throws it over that son of a
Yes,
bitch?
yes,
You got
true story.
problems,
That can't
man,
be
and you
true.
shouldn't be
Twice.
leading this show.
That can't
Like,
be
I think we need to take it away from you just because
If any
you're
of
a
you are
fucking
believing
serial
Matt
killer.
Regan here, then
I
you
know
got
my friend.
problems. All right,
I know
that's
my
where the
friend.
problem lies.
That is disgusting. But
Why?
also,
But
I will
It's
say
a
this.
true. Why would I make that up?
I
My
love
God.
You think it's immunity? You think it's immunity?
I think, okay, if I may, I think you're a bit upset that we
I'm the main
hijacked
host
the
now.
Anthony Mantha, good analysis of yours, and sort of took it in a different direction with the figure skating. And here you are saying that I eat seasoned popcorn with
You do.
dressing.
You do.
At this point,
will
Matt could
discuss
tell me
this
you're
with
on an
you guys.
island with Jeff Epstein, and I might believe it. I'm just saying.
Unbelievable.
Look, the other thing that I will say is underrated in a baseball game is that every stadium has where you get the little like miniature baseball hat helmet, and they put chicken fingers and fries in that bitch. That's a solid food, man. Like they give you the
On the
perfect
hat?
dish. It's just in the helmet. It's solid, man. It's really
So
solid.
This sounds like a Coming to America segment right here.
my one retort is I've never had good fries at a stadium that I can recall. I think stadium fries are bad,
No,
which
I have.
I love fries, and I'm a big
I
fry
definitely
guy.
have. I've had Old Bay fries at Camden Yards.
Camden
Or-
Yards, baby.
Okay, I bet those are good. Ahmed would prefer ranch seasoning fries.
Oh
probably.
Elsie, you've been very quiet, and I feel like you're going to come in on a bomb right now.
Bro,
Let's hear it.
you're making me nostalgic. First of all, like food at stadiums in Argentina is so like they
It's
have
like all
actual
steak. It's just like
yes,
yeah, yeah.
you have different kinds of steak or chorizo, but And I remember when I was a kid, it was 5 pesos. I think if you go today, it's probably about 300, 400 pesos. That we have a little bit of inflation. But you show up, you're just like one chori, and they're just like pim pum pum. They give it to you in 30 seconds or less, and you can't ask for customization. You're getting what they are giving you. Okay, so don't come with all your little requests. Like, oh, do you have wheat bread? Like, what the fuck is that? No, you get this bun, chorizo, chimichurri on top, and then another bun. Here you go. That's it. And don't ask for anything else. You can, however, get a lomito, which is a flank steak with chimichurri. So it's bread, steak, bread. That's it. Eat it and go away.
Okay, so that wins. That wins. He also gave us a childhood story. Did a lot more than any of us, including Matt, who just lied for about 3 straight minutes.
I want to throw one thing in there, though. I'm going to throw one thing in there. I was at a soccer game in Jamaica to see the Reggae Boys, the team that's down there. And I'll never forget, because I was a small child.
LC already won. Continue.
I'm just saying, it wasn't food, but it was just something that was available at the stadium. Where they walk around like they have sticks and just weed, ganja, hanging off the damn things. Where at a certain point before the end of the game, I look at my dad and my uncle, and they're like, son, you'll know what this is eventually one day. And you couldn't see what was happening on the field because of the amount of smoke. It was an amazing time.
You're making me think. I'm pretty sure the first time I smelled weed was at a stadium, and I asked my dad, like, what is that smell? He was like, oh, don't worry about it. That was the first time.
With that smile as well. All right, well, hey, guys, since we're already in a pretty debatey mood, why don't we just go ahead and get to the hot take of the day? Who wants it?
It cannot be popcorn related.
Although, like, I want to shank somebody after hearing ranch seasoning on popcorn. God damn.
You got to blame Matt because I've never done that. Go ahead, Kadeen.
All right, Jeff Epstein. The angle right here, I want to take the hot take for the first time because I was actually on the phone with a buddy a couple days ago, and we had a discussion kind of pull up, and it's one that I'm very, very passionate about, and I don't know how it's going to go over with you guys. But I'd like to say that kicking should be eliminated from the game of American football.
Yeah, it's a trash take. That's a terrible take. That's a terrible take. I mean, how many games have come down to game-winning kicks from like 50 yards out? So those would be Hail Marys.
To eliminate.
So here's the thing. If we're really looking at, if we were all sitting down in a boardroom right now, coming up with the game of football, right?
Explain your take.
We were talking about like, hey, so we're going to have like the linemen, you're going to have a quarterback, you're trying to get down the field. And if somebody said, well, you know what, at a certain point, all of those guys are going to go off the field, somebody's going to kick a ball through these two things. You think they lost their fucking mind. You tell them, get the fuck out of the room. What are you talking about? It has nothing to do with anything else that was happening in the game. What are you doing? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like,
I think it makes a lot of sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Like,
what's the game called?
Oh, well, you know, don't even get me started on that shit and just how ignorant and Americanized that shit is, which usually I stand for and I'm with. But you got to admit when you're wrong. I mean, it's akin to Columbus arriving in the wrong continent, calling the Native Americans Indians and being like, fuck you, I'm going to stick with it, is what football is. We're just wrong. And everybody knows it. Every time the discussion of, well, I mean, how often we use our feet. Field goal kickers aren't even considered part of the team.
No, but
they fucking practice over on the other side of the goddamn field. You ever been to
training? You're
not around anybody.
The other side of the field, aka not the team.
Go over there. Yeah.
You've seen the movie The Replacements? Fucking chain smoking European, just kicking the goddamn ball.
He was critical to the movie.
I think
they are barely a football player on the field, and there are so many ways in which we could do better than this. Like field goals themselves can just be eliminated. Like the only aspect of kicking that I think might have a place in what I would consider the new NFL would be punting. It's the only thing that I could justify because all the rest of it just doesn't fit. Kickoffs are the dumbest thing ever. And I have a lot of stats about kickoffs, and I don't think you guys even want to debate kickoffs because you already know it's fucking stupid, right? I
agree there.
Agree?
Yeah.
I mean, they've pretty much gotten rid of kickoffs.
Well, see, the thing is, they just won't give it the depth that it deserves because they have to have that kicker do more than one fucking job, which is the only reason they have it continue to exist. Extra points.
I think we should do I would go the opposite direction and have the system we have for kickers in football in other sports. So I would have in basketball a guy who just shows up, shows the free throw, and then just goes back to the bench. In soccer, you just bring a guy in. hit a free kick, and then goes right back out. So we only allow subs for that guy.
That's exciting. That's exciting. No,
it's his only job. It's his only job.
I like how those recommendations are all within the, at least the vein of the sport. And then hockey, we have figure skaters. I mean,
I knew it was about that. That whole ranch thing was about that. Go ahead.
Do you think I do agree with Kadeen though that like if you were to look at football as a sport being played, and then all of a sudden somebody has to hold the ball in place while somebody else kicks it through posts that are used for nothing else, that does seem quite completely out of the blue. But I wonder if does it have to do with when the sport was invented? Because rugby has like 100 years on it, and I wonder if they were just like, yo, have you seen rugby? That kicking thing is cool. Let's just
probably what happened.
It was at one point, it was impossible to throw the fucking ball basically until you get guys like Sammy Ball that came along. And there's actually news articles at one point that were about whether or not it was a legitimate offensive strategy to just onside kick nonstop throughout the game, because it was legitimately, because of how random it could possibly be, it could work out in your benefit. Football, when it was first invented, was a trash ass sport. It was terrible. And it took so many years of trying to get it right. But there's certain aspects that we just hold on to for no reason. Like, you can't tell me that when we're talking about the way the game itself is played, right? When you talk about the extra point, why are we doing the extra point when you could line those guys up the same way you would, like, at the 1 yard line? If you want to get 1 point, you take it from the 1 yard line, try to get in the end zone. That's football. If you want to go for 2, how about the 5 or the 10 yard line? Try to get in the end zone. That's football. It's not the guy who we pay the smallest amount of salary on the team to run on in here.
Soccer players
out of a second chance,
man. I know. Just give them weird.
So I would say this, Kadeen, and here's my main counterpoint is, do you know what really makes football the most interesting is its scoring system. I think you can talk about athleticism, skill plays, whatever, but it's the perfect scoring system of 3, 6 plus extra points that just always keeps games within reason and keeps it. Because people always say athleticism, skill plays, that's what I'm watching. But in reality, games are always kind of close. They're structured well. And taking away field goals is going to get rid of that field goal.
Nobody's watching a YouTube video for the scoring system. They're all watching like hits. Come on, man. That's
but here's the thing. You can also you can make up that point total in a different way. Like if we're going
football.
So what are you doing in
this play? Just like the XFL.
There could be a 3-point conversion the same way after you score. It depends. We could do it.
Okay. So what happens if you have 4th and 12 from 40 yards out or 30 yards out?
25 yards.
Yeah. What do you do if you're at 4th and 12?
That's where we go to. You have to. What changes the game and keeps it along with football is that you go for it. Like, to me, that makes it more exciting. That gets the game of football going the right way.
You're just going to get depressed watching your team fail to convert a 4th and 12 over and over again. That's not what you want to say.
But I do agree that changes
the game.
It changes the way you play your third.
Of course, but here's the thing, Kadeen. You don't need to. If you're the head coach, you don't need to kick it. You're fine. It's an option. It's an option. So it's not like you're required to kick these field goals. You can take that up with the NFL head coaches and stuff like that.
Because it doesn't fit anything else in the sport. It's a random thing that happens.
Here's the beauty of it, because based on what you've described, there is a football player and then there are kickers, and they are totally different beings, right?
You don't believe that? You don't believe that?
No, but here's the funny part, because I think a lot of people do. The concept that all these people who spend their time lifting, who spend their time running, who spend their time cutting and stuff like that, it comes down to a guy that may be chain smoking on the fucking sidelines, just like in the replacements, and he's got to nail a kick, and all of a sudden you're Super Bowl champions or you're going home.
Sebastian Janikowski.
I want that for free.
I love that. The beauty of that.
Sebastian Janikowski is one of the most out-of-shape pieces of shit you'll ever find in your life. And yet he's one of the greatest kickers that have ever existed in football, because kicking is stupid.
Wait. Go ahead, Spencer.
I was going to say, I do see both sides, but I do want to say one thing, is that isn't almost every team's top scorer a kicker?
Yes.
Right? Like, so, I mean, a lot of points do come off the leg of the kicker. But also, I do think that there is a little bit of a difference between the NFL and the art of kicking at the highest level and in the low levels. Like in high school, football teams would beg the soccer players, please, someone come and kick for us. It was also the place that you would see a lot more women playing in the kicking position, because they would recruit from the women's soccer team that had long legs. And then like college, I think that obviously there are great kickers that come out of college, but even the vast majority of college kickers don't end up in the NFL. It's like you'll see dudes from Europe that come and kick in the NFL and that are not coming to the college system. So I think that there is an art form to the highest level, but every level below that, it kind of gets wonky and weird. And I could totally see moving it from.
It's such a weird specialization. It's so weird.
Hypothetical question. If you do both, so if you can not kick for field goals, right? But now you can also not punt, which means you have to go for every fourth down. Do you think the scoring average for every game will go up or down? So it will go down because you can't.
Are we talking about NFL or just a football in general? Because a lot of high school teams don't even kick it.
No, that's fair. Let's say
analytics
NFL.
are pushing it away anyway.
Yeah.
Let's say NFL. So you cannot make a field goal, but you also have to go for every fourth down, which means if you miss it, like the other team may get the ball, in the 20-yard line or something. Scoring goes up or down.
I think down.
There's an offset. There's sort of an offset, because if you're talking about, like, once again, the only part of kicking that I still think might fit in the game is punting. Like, you're not going to get a huge argument for me to eliminate punting, because punting to me kind of fits along the lines of what it is, where at least you got guys in the line of scrimmage.
Why is punting different? Why is punting different than kicking?
You should just throw it.
It's still some unathletic, dude.
No, but here's
it's still some unathletic, dude.
But that's kind of the argument, is that, like, the punting aspect is a way that you can legitimately change possession and have the game work a certain way. Although if you do eliminate punting, when you're talking about what you're saying with the scoring aspect, if you didn't make that fourth down, you had to give it up on downs. The idea would be that field position to allow that team to go score a touchdown increases the ability or the possibility that the touchdown exists. So I don't think it's that cut and dry on whether or not the scoring itself would dramatically go up or down.
So here's the thing, Kadeen. I don't think it's ever going to change, at least the rule. But what I do think is going to happen is you are going to stop seeing punting, and you are probably going to stop seeing kicked field goals as well. The reason being, you see the quarterback position get increasingly athletic, and you're talking about freak athletes. They're making insane throws. They are now able to run as fast as Olympic sprinters as well. Like you talk about Lamar Jackson. You look at Russell Wilson's very smart with the way he runs around. Dak Prescott normally is as well. Like there are a number, Deshaun Watson, there's so many athletes at the quarterback position. Pat Mahomes, you're going to start going for it on 4th and 5, 4th and 6. You're going to get used to making that, no problem. And then once it's about 4th and 4, 4th and 3 from your own 30, you're probably going for that too. If you look at the Ravens, they're already starting to do a lot of this. And as they get more athletic, it's going to get even tougher.
Which is great. And that's my thing, is that at least it continues the game. Like, to me, the most exciting part of the game is 11 on 11 playing, not the random thing that happens when somebody kicks the ball. Like, I want to see more of the game. I want to see more of those athletes running and doing the insane things to go get those balls, to do what they have to do to play the game. Like, I don't understand this weird random thing that's just a leftover bit that we did in the 1940s that for some reason, because everybody has glossy eyes over the time is running out and you got to kick this ball. That's the only reason we do it, but it falls completely.
Yeah, but there's so many great moments that come down to end of game kicks.
There were so many great moments that came when we were giving running backs 30 carries a fucking game. That doesn't happen anymore either. I'm just saying.
Not ultimate drama.
All right, I think we can bring a little hockey into this. How about the quarterback takes the ball, does a 360 in the air, does a little single axle loop.
This is the revenge I wanted.
The amount of disrespect.
Then his throw is essentially a punt.
So can we change back? Amit puts on ranch flavor.
I do not.
What if instead of punting, let's say we do prohibit punting. What if the strategy is you put on a quarterback that has a cannon, not any precision, but has a cannon,
and he says
he just throws it to, like,
he says this is a punt.
And wherever it lands.
And I mean, the other team's gonna catch it, so like it's basically punting with your hand.
I'm saying that the joke that Spencer just made isn't that far removed from how absurd kicking a field goal is. That's how different it is.
That's not far removed.
It's the equivalent of, look, we get 3 points, come out here and play a game of chess. If that has as much to do with the rest of the goddamn game as anything else. It's this random act that occurs that awards 3 points. That has nothing to do with anything else that's being played. It makes no sense.
My final counterpoint
Here's a Rubik's Cube, Sebastian, put it together. Like, what?
Is what are fans going to do when they have a big upset and they can't take down the uprights? So we gotta leave uprights. We gotta leave kicking.
Oh boy,
that's it.
As a person with community college, I'm sick and tired of seeing assholes in Big Ten schools jump on the field any goddamn way. So fuck off. I don't care.
I didn't even say Big Ten. That wasn't a necessary personal shot. I didn't mean to make it personal.
Not to mention, if you remove those stupid cross rights, whatever the fuck they're called, you have an unobstructed view of the field again.
Oh yeah, those are really blocking a ton of views.
But I'm just saying,
those two sticks.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no more.
Actually, when you buy end zone tickets, they're called obstructed view, right?
Dude, now I'm thinking
that net comes down.
Okay, but hold on.
The net comes down.
Between the kicker, the people who install the posts.
What a conversation.
Between the kicker, the people who install the posts, the nets. I'm thinking like kicking may employ like 10%.
You gotta think about the jobs,
like,
Kadeen.
It's an industry,
think about the other guys that could play backup to all the other positions. Do I want a kicker or an additional pass rusher to get in the rotation? I'll take the pass rusher.
You want a kicker?
What are you talking about? It makes no sense.
Dude, you would want like another third string, like your seventh best edge rusher, or one of the top 32 at what they do in the world.
Bullshit.
It's number top one of 32.
They find some soccer reject to kick this oblong ball.
Well, then he's still one of the top 32.
Yeah, when he's top 32, making a lower part of the goddamn salary, and then all of a sudden, under what circumstance do you have a playoff game that Jay Feely, who hasn't done shit, is now responsible for whether or not a team moves on? What is that? What is that? What? Like, why? Why you? And then we gotta feel bad for this asshole? Like, we're setting him up to fail. Like, why? Why has this team done everything else, playing offense and defense, and then the game is decided on your goddamn foot, and then we're ready to shank you afterwards because you missed the kick?
Yo, the why you just killed me. Why you?
It doesn't make any sense. But here's I will say this. I am happy that it seems like I'm getting no resistance to kickoffs.
No, kickoffs.
Kickoffs are dumb.
They just kick it out. I mean,
and here's the only thing
machines.
And the only thing that I had as far as kickoffs is, I don't know if you guys know Greg Schiano, former coach, Rutgers head coach. When he had his player Eric LeGrand got hit on that on the kickoff and was permanently paralyzed. Mm-hmm. He came up with a solution that solved what a lot of people say is the pushback to the kickoffs, which is the onside kick. Which is his idea, was that you'd start at your own 30, have a 4th and 15, and you had a choice of whether or not to make the play or you could punt. And you could do a fake punt or anything else. That's how kickoffs would be replaced. Because a punt is safe. Kickoffs are not. And even with the rule that they've done as far as the distance they have as far as kicking, it doesn't change anything because those guys are still hitting each other until they realize what's a touchback. And the touchback doesn't happen until after the collisions.
So, Kadeen, it sounds like the XFL is 100% for you because they were doing these things and it was just getting started. And I think we talked about it last week a little bit too with the DC Defenders. Like, it was just a fun atmosphere at Audi Field and stuff like that. And The Rock, I think, took them out of bankruptcy, bought them, and is rebranding them, I want to say. So they're still the XFL, but it's under his leadership now. So let's see. Guys, that was one hell of a hot take segment. I almost forgot about this last segment that we're doing, the Washington Wizards. So let's talk about this real quick, okay? They are one of the weirdest teams because, to me, they can't figure out what to do, all right? The Wizards are now either in 12th or 13th place in the East, but they are one game back of 10th place in the East. Normally, it doesn't matter. Normally, it's the top 8 spots make the playoffs, and that's that. More recently, it is now the top 10 that make it. And you have a 10 versus 9 game, and the winner of that plays the loser of the 7 versus 8 games. So if they would win both games, they're in the playoffs. Yeah, they are in the playoffs. But what do you guys think they should do? Because when we look at, the best teams in the NBA, on the one hand, we beat them, and I don't know how. And on the other hand, over a 7-game series, we're probably not going to. So what do you think the Wizards should do? Do you think they should just, the players are going to go for it, but as a fan, do you want them to just sort of roll over and get a higher draft pick?
No, I don't think it is. I want them to go for it because of this. When we lost the series against Toronto and the truth hit that bank shot. And then they asked him, "Did you call bank?" He said, "I call game." It doesn't matter that we lost the series. I won moments like that. So if we're gonna get a Russ moment, if we're gonna get a Bradley Beal moment, just in a lost, 4-1 series against the Nets or whoever, that's fine. I want that as a fan. I want those moments. I want to watch the playoffs with a little bit of an investment in it. Like, I don't want to watch them just to see who wins. I want to have a real team to root for. So yes, I would say let's get that last spot and then get in.
Is there a difference? So if you're say the 10 seed and you make the play-in tournament or whatever, and then you don't make the playoffs, do you still get a lottery pick? You still get a lottery?
No, I think you do. I think you do. Okay. I think it's based on regular season.
So as long as you're on the final 8, as long as you're not in the final 8.
I see. So you're saying if you're the 10 seed, you're now in the playoffs. You've won those 2 play-in games. Do you still have a lottery pick?
Yeah.
Because then I'm guessing you are going to say, yes, go for it, and you'll still have the lottery pick. Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, my only thing is, like, I think that right now they would have 9th best draft odds, right? Which isn't a great pick, but also I don't think that this team is, like, I don't know. In my head, there's still like a playoff and like contender in the East on paper. I don't know why I still think that. It's been a whole season of not doing that. But,
and in certain games they are. Like, I think that's the problem, right? That they're just so inconsistent.
Yeah, I'm kind of with LC. I kind of say go for it. Just because, I mean, granted, I'm a Pistons fan, and we've been stuck in mediocrity because we've been in this trade space, and we're always like,
I don't think last
3 games outside the playoffs.
But last place is not mediocrity.
No, now we're going full tank. But like, we have been getting the 7th, 10th, 12th draft pick every single year, and we've never really gotten that star. Okay. But the Wizards are still kind of there. You're not going to get a star at number 9. You're not going to get a franchise-changing player at 9. I say go for it because I don't really see what option you have. Like, you're never going to be with Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. You're never going to be a terrible team. You're never going to get a career-changing guy. I kind of say go for it. You're going to get a little bit of excitement. You're not going to go far. They're not going to go far. They're not going to beat 76ers or Nets or the Bucks in the playoffs. So,
well, yeah, I agree. I say go for it as well because
I don't know why is this a question? Like, I don't even understand this being a question because, like, to me, I fucking hate the idea of tanking number 1.
Yeah, that's
especially for a draft pick that you don't know is a sure thing, which is just dumb as shit. Then there's the other aspect that I think we're missing out with when it comes to this team in particular. It's so young. And the last thing you want to do is have a team that is used to and is comfortable with losing. You have to work hard, and you have to play hard. And playoff experience for some of these young cats like Denny, like Rui, is only going to help them in the long term. It's not a debate. You have to play as hard as you can. And you got a guy like Russ. If you imagine you got a guy like Russ and you're going to take the fucking gas, you're going to let off the gas and think he's going to be okay with the organization? Get the fuck out of here. Like, you want to see a team explode. Don't give it your fucking all from the top all the way down.
And the Wizards, magic can legitimately happen in the playoffs. And like, I mean, we saw that Warriors team way back in the day defeat the Mavericks. That was magic. It was pure magic. And to Elsie's point, magic moments and magic series happen. And I think, just like Matt said, this team can be a contender. They've got Russ and Brad. Like, these dudes are incredible players. And to Kadeen's point, like the getting them experience. And I have to say, I actually disagree with Matt. I as far as the cornerstone player, there have been tons of cornerstone players that have been drafted 9 and later. Jimmy Butler was 32.
Manu Ginobili.
Yeah, but he wasn't the cornerstone player. He wasn't the cornerstone player for the team that drafted him.
Sure, he was. Absolutely,
yeah, he was. They just didn't do what they needed to do for him.
Kind of.
Okay, but real quick, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis, like they were beyond. It happens. It's rare.
It exists. It exists. But there's a lot more that were drafted.
But real quick, just to clarify the question, because I think it does need some clarifying here. It's from the fan perspective. And the reason why you might see some Wizards fans not want to make the playoffs is because they are fearful of a Scott Brooks extension. This is his final year with the team.
Well,
a lot of people have been really fed up with him. And if he makes a little bit of a phantom run, because does anyone think this team's actually going to win the NBA title? No. But if they happen to go to the second round, for example, or they fluke their way into the conference, finals, all of a sudden is Scott Brooks back? Is it worth the run to have Scott Brooks come back for another 3-4 years. He's with Russ again. It seems to be working again. And that could be a problem for Wizards fans. And that's where it's coming from.
Yeah,
Doc Rivers got fired with the Clippers, and they were incredible, and he got fired. And I think that Scott Brooks is done.
But the expectations for the Clippers were over the moon, and they had X number of years to do it. Scott Brooks has heavily underachieved
the Clippers underperformed last year than the Wizards did this year.
But hold on. If we do get 2 rounds in the playoffs, Scott Brooks doesn't deserve another thing?
No.
I'm saying if it's ridiculous enough that this team takes it that far, you're going to say he has nothing to do with it?
Because here's the thing.
This team should be in contention for a 1-series playoff.
Right.
They should be in contention for that to win a series, given their roster, given their star-studded talent.
So I'm saying
they're
if we make
nowhere near
it
that.
But I'm saying if
that's what he's saying. If we win a series,
from the Amit's perspective, from the fan, if we make it 2 rounds in, I think then I start to actually have the debate: does Scott Brooks deserve to come back? Because I don't see this team making it that far right now with the way that the East.
If he makes the NBA Finals, sure, because then that is so crazy, so over the top that maybe he did do something that you go, okay, but 3 straight years of underachieving followed by a second-round exit. No,
I agree.
Not going to be enough.
Look, I think Scott Brooks needs to go, but I also think that it speaks to what's happening with the front office itself. Scott Brooks doesn't go unless Russ and Brad sign off on Scott Brooks going. So I don't know what the deal is. It's the way the NBA works, bro. Like you're not gonna. The same reason we're talking about Doc. Doc doesn't leave LA unless Kawhi gets a phone call. It's the way it works. So,
but sometimes the players don't necessarily know what's best for him either. And
Russ isn't on the team without Brad saying it's okay.
I get that.
I think that happens with someone like Doc Rivers, who is such a, but like Scott Brooks to me seems like just such an average coach that he's not. I don't know. He's not a game changer.
Scott Brooks was the guy with James Harden, with Kevin Durant, with Russell Westbrook, and they didn't win. Okay,
great.
You look at those 3 players now. That is actually unbelievable that they did not win at least one together. That is maybe because Scott Brooks was coach, they didn't. Like, that's now where we were. I think early on, we were like, Scott Brooks is bright young mind. Look at these players. They're really good. And now you look at what they are now and you go ahead.
As an added point, it wasn't even just them. They had other really good vets. They had Serge Ibaka. It was crazy.
Don't get it twisted. I don't like Scott Brooks. I think he is a detriment to the team. But I also think that we're fooling ourselves if we think what most likely is going to happen with this Wizard team is they're going to make the playoffs and they'll flame out. Most likely.
I think most likely they don't make. I think
most likely they don't make it. They don't make it. It's easy enough to just get rid of Scott Brooks, right?
Pick a 9th overall, yeah.
But even if we make that first round, I don't think the way the season ends up is going to be the determining factor for Scott. I think more that has to do with it is if Brad and Russ are okay with them getting rid of him. I think that has more to do with what happens at the end of the season.
I don't think Russell Westbrook has that much pull in the Wizards. I think Bradley Beal does.
Beal will.
Dude, Russell Westbrook, this contract,
that's why he has pull.
Why does that give him pull?
Because the contract alone is if you're going to have a situation where you got that much money of your roster tied up in the one guy, you have to kind of listen to him or at least not make him upset. Because you don't want a situation where you have this guy who doesn't want to deal with your team. You can't move him.
Dude, you would tell him, you'd probably be honest with him like, Russ, dude, we lost with you when you were happy. We're going to lose if you're mad too. So
I'm not denying that, but I'm saying that you're disrespecting the fact that Russ has some set.
Kadeen, you're thinking about Russ, the superstar, right? And he is a superstar, but he is not necessarily a piece long-term. So they are less likely to ask him about what he thinks if we know he's only going to be here for another year or 2, because there's no guarantees on the roster next year even. Someone may want to trade for him, and depending on where we are as a franchise, we may just let him go. And
you got to look chess-wise, man. Brad does not –
Brad is the centerpiece.
Hold on, but wait. Wizards don't make the move from Wall without Brad.
Yes.
They asked Brad, and Brad says, all right, bring Russ in, which means if they bring Russ in, and that was a Brad move, guess who now has say by proxy of even Brad? Russ. Because that was his pick.
Maybe.
It's his pick.
Maybe.
Brad Beal is what makes Washington go.
Sure.
So he has all the say. Russ
I agree.
doesn't get here without him signing off. It's just
sure, but maybe Bradley feels like, dude, it's been a year and it's been terrible. It's been terrible.
Agreed, but I also think Brad's got to blame himself for some of it. I mean, well, not really. I take that back.
No, he's like, I'm getting 31 a game.
Yeah, listen, no player that is currently on pace to win the scoring title is going, this was my bad.
I'm saying right now, you have to understand,
48%.
Coaches in the NBA don't just get let go without you talking to the superstars. And I think you guys are downplaying what Russ's impact is in that locker room and that front office with a salary and his salary being as big as it is. He does have some pull.
I even think it may not even have to do with whether he has pull or whether he has power or whatnot, but like they may honestly just respect his view as a basketball player who has been through the league and been through multiple coaches and like can give you an honest perspective on who he thinks should be coaching. Like even if he weren't with the Wizards, like if they could consult on Russell, like maybe they would because he's like an experienced player.
And that dynamic scares me, right? Because Scott and Russ really like each other. And Wizards fans really don't like Scott. And so if he
I don't even know if Wizards fans like Russ that much.
I think I think they've certainly turned around on him. It was quite clear. Yes, I know what you're referring to, but they've really turned around on him because clearly he was hurt. We talked about this way early on. Russ was clearly injured, and now that he's 100%, he's a walking triple-double once again.
He's a beast.
And you got Brad leading the league in scoring. Of course you want to see that team in the playoffs. I think Wizards fans are just tremendously fearful that Scott Brooks is going to hang around for a lot longer because of a potential run. We will see what happens. So real quick, just to wrap it up, for it or against
5
it?
seconds.
Yes,
5 seconds.
Kadeen, go ahead.
Dollar bet Scott Brooks isn't here next year. I don't think it matters the way the season.
He will.
Yeah, he won't.
I think he's going.
You know what?
I don't think it matters.
I'm going to take it because I'm hedging emotionally. So at the very least, I'll get $1 if Scott Brooks returns. Otherwise, happy to pay it to you.
Wait,
you're on.
Dollar bet. Do the Wizards make the playoffs?
They do.
Yeah, wait, hang on. Do they make the play-in tournament?
Yes.
Just the play-in tournament.
That's what
That's
do.
what
the
we're
10th
talking
seed.
about.
Yeah.
They have the fourth easiest.
I will take dollar bets against.
Okay.
Everyone.
Okay, cool. So everyone's got $1 with Matt. I've got the action.
All right.
Spencer's got the action.
Everyone's
got
the
action.
I'm a hater.
Real quick, just to wrap up, the Wizards have the fourth easiest remaining strength of schedule, which for them can mean anything. Because again, they beat the West best.
Doesn't matter.
And then they they play the Pistons on Saturday. They'll probably lose that game, but they play the Pelicans tomorrow. They'll probably win that one. So we're going to see what happens, but that's going to wrap it up here, folks. Once again, this is District Divided. I am a host, Amit Singh. I do not have popcorn flavored ranch, whatever Matt Regan was talking about, who is another host of yours, Matt Regan. I got LC, Lautaro Cabrera, Kadeen Wiggins, a.k.a. K-Dot, and Spencer Brudig. Do you want a nickname? What's your nickname, Spencer?
Ooh.
My nickname should be Steph Curry, still underrated and having an MVP.
Ooh.
That's what my nickname should be.
Oh, that rolls off the tongue.
He's still underrated.
Steph fanboy.
Okay, he'd be underrated.
Yeah, I don't get how Steph can be underrated.
Every kid at a playground that just shoots and says Steph Curry, and you're gonna be like, he's underrated? Are you kidding me?
My other podcast, which I don't like plugging, has a 3-episode arc about how Steph Curry is overrated.
Overrated.
Interesting.
I'm not saying whether or not I'm on that.
There's a hot take for next time.
I ain't saying what side of this argument I'm on.
I know.
I'm just saying it exists.
There's a hot take for next time.
By the way, real quick, next week we are going to be having our first guest on video. It's Benjamin Robinson. He is author of grindingthemocks.com. It is a mock draft aggregator, thousands of mock drafts to figure out what player is going at what draft position. So we're going to talk to him about that. Nice. He's going to join us and talk about some of the DC sports topics as well. That's going to conclude it here. And we're probably going to talk about Steph Curry a little bit in the next episode. Take it easy, y'all. Have a blessed day.
See you guys.